Fortune favors the bold. Mr. Brown's December precept was, "Fortune favors the bold." We were all supposed to write a paragraph about some time in our lives when we did something very brave and how because of it something good happened to us. I thought about this a lot, to be truthful. I have to say that I think the bravest thing I ever did was become friends with August. But I couldn't write about that, of course. I was afraid that we'd have to read these out loud and Mr. Brown would put them up on the bulletin board like he does sometimes. So instead, I wrote this lame thing about how I used to be afraid of the ocean when I was little. It was dumb, but I couldn't think of anything else. I wonder what August wrote about. He probably had a lot of things to choose from. Private school. My parents are not rich. I say this because people sometimes think that everyone who goes to private school is rich, but that isn't true with us. Dad's a teacher and Mom's a social worker, which means they don't have those kinds of jobs where people make gazillions of dollars. We used to have a car, but we sold it when Jamie started kindergarten at Beecher Prep. We don't live in a big townhouse or in one of those doorman buildings along the park. We live on the top floor, a 5-story walk-up. We rent from an old lady named Doña Petra, all the way on the other side of the Broadway. That's code for the section of North River Heights where people don't want to park their cars. Me and Jamie share a room. I overhear my parents talk about things like, can we do without an air conditioner one more year? Or maybe I can work 2 jobs this summer. So today at recess, I was hanging out with Julian and Henry and Miles. Julian, who everyone knows is rich, was like, "I hate that I have to go back to Paris this Christmas. It's so boring." "Dude, but it's like Paris," I said, like he's an idiot. "Believe me, it's so boring," he said. "My grandmother lives in this house in the middle of nowhere. It's like an hour away from Paris in this tiny, tiny, tiny village. And I swear, nothing happens there. I mean, it's like, oh wow, there's another fly on the wall. Look, there's a new dog sleeping on the sidewalk. Yippee!" I laughed. Sometimes Julian could be very funny. "Though my parents are talking about throwing a big party this year instead of going to Paris. I hope so. What are you doing over break?" said Julian. Just hanging out," I said. "You're so lucky," he said. "I hope it snows again," I answered. "I got this new sled. It's so amazing." I was about to tell him about lightning, but Miles started talking first. "I got a new sled too," he said. My dad got it from the Hamacher Schlemmer. It's so state of the art." How could a sled be state of the art?" said Julian. "It was like $800 or something." "Whoa! We should all go sledding and have a race down Skeleton Hill," I said. "Ugh, that hill is so lame," answered Julian. "Are you kidding?" I said. "Some kid broke his neck there. That's why it's called Skeleton Hill." Julian narrowed his eyes and looked at me like I was the biggest moron in the world. "It's called Skeleton Hill because it was an ancient Indian burial ground, duh," he said. "Anyway, it should be called Garbage Hill now. It's so junky. Last time I was there, it was so gross, like with soda cans and broken bottles and stuff." He shook his head. I left my old sled there," said Miles. "It was a piece of junk, and someone took it too." "Maybe a hobo wanted to go sledding," laughed Julian. "Where did you leave it?" I said. "Oh, by the big rock at the bottom of the hill. And I went back the next day, and it was gone. I couldn't believe somebody had actually took it." "Well, here's what we can do," said Julian. "Next time it snows, my dad could drive us all the way up to the golf course in Westchester that makes Skeleton Hill look like nothing. Hey, Jack, where are you going?" "So, Jack, where are you going?" I started to walk away. "Oh, I've got to get a book out of my locker." I lied. I just wanted to get away from them fast. I didn't want anyone to know that I was the hobo that they were talking, or who had taken the sled. In science. Now, not the greatest student in the world, and I know some kids actually like school, but I honestly can't say I do. I like parts of school, like PE and computer class, and lunch and recess, but all in all, I'd be fine without school. Let me take a pause break right there, guys. That might be how some of you used to talk, but now that you've had a little taste of this online school, I'm sure that you'd all think maybe a little bit differently, huh? I know I would. Sure, there's going to be days that we don't want to do this or go there, do this at school, but man, after all this staying at home stuff, I'm so glad to be ever going back to school whenever we do. But okay, break over. Here we go. And the thing I hate the most about school is all the homework we get. It's not enough that we have to sit through class after class and try to stay awake while they fill our heads with all this stuff that we'll probably never need to know, like how to figure out the surface area of a cube or what the difference between a kinetic and potential energy. I'm like, who cares? I've never, ever heard my parents say the word kinetic in my entire life. I hate science the most out of all my classes. We get so much work, it's not even funny. And the teacher, Miss Rubin, is so strict about everything. Even the way that we write our headings on the top of our papers. And I once got 2 points off of a homework assignment because I didn't put the date on top. You know, crazy stuff. When me and August were still friends, I was doing okay in science because August sat next to me and always let me copy his notes. August had the neatest handwriting of anybody I'd ever seen who's a boy. Even his script is neat, up and down perfectly, with really small, round, loopy letters. But now that we're ex-friends, it's bad because I can't ask him to let me copy his notes anymore. So I was kind of scrambling today, trying to take notes about what Miss Rubin was saying. My handwriting was awful. And when all of a sudden she started talking about the 5th grade science fair project and how we all had to choose a science project to work on. While she was saying this, I was thinking, we just finished the Egypt project and now we have to start a whole new thing? And then in my head, I was going, oh no! Like that kid in Home Alone with his mouth hanging open and his hands on his face. Ah! Now that was the face I was making on the inside. And then I thought of those pictures of melting ghost faces I've seen somewhere with the mouths wide open and they're screaming. And then, all of a sudden, this picture flew into my head. This, like, memory. And I knew what Summer had meant by bleeding scream. It's so weird how it just all came to me in this flash. Someone in homeroom had dressed up in the bleeding scream costume on Halloween. And I remember seeing him a few desks away from me, and then I remember not seeing him again. Oh man, it was August. All of this hit me in science class while the teacher was talking. Oh man, oh man, oh man. I had been talking to Julian about August. Oh man. Now I understood. I was so mean. I don't even know why. I'm just not even sure what I said, but it was bad, and it was only a minute or two, and it's just that I knew Julian, and everybody thought I was so weird for hanging out with August all the time, and I felt stupid. I don't even know why I said that stuff. I was just going along. I was stupid. I am stupid. Oh, gosh. He was supposed to come as Boba Fett. I would never have said that stuff in front of Boba Fett, but that was him. That bleeding scream sitting at the desk looking over at us. The long white mask with the fake squirting blood. The mouth wide open like the girl was crying. That was him. Ugh. I felt like I was going to puke. Ugh. Partners. I didn't hear a word of what Miss Rubin was saying after that. Blah, blah, blah. Science fair project. Blah, blah, blah. Partners. Blah, blah. It was like the grown-ups talk in Charlie Brown movies, blah 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 blah, like someone talking underwater, blah 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 blah. Then all of a sudden Miss Rubin started pointing to kids around the class. Reed and Tristan, Maya and Max, Charlotte and Jimena, August and Jack. She pointed to us when she read this. Miles and Amos, Julian and Henry, Savannah and... I didn't hear the rest. Huh? I said. The bell rang. So don't forget to get together with your partners to choose a project from the list, guys, said Miss Rubin as everyone started taking off. I looked up at August, but he had already put his backpack on and was practically out the door. I must have had this stupid look on my face because Julian came over and said, "Looks like you and your best buds are partners." He was smirking when he said this. I hated him so much right then. Hello, Earth to Jack Will, he said, and I didn't answer him. Just shut up, Julian. I was putting my loose leaf binder away in my backpack and just wanted him away from me. Oh, yeah, you must be bummed that you got stuck with him, he said. You should tell Miss Rubin that you want to switch partners. I bet she'd let you. No, she wouldn't, I said. Well, just ask her. No, I don't want to. Miss Rubin, Julian said, turning around, raising his hand at the same time. Miss Rubin was erasing the chalkboard in front of the room. She turned when she heard her name. No, Julian, I screamed. What is it, boys? She said impatiently. Could we switch partners if we wanted to? Said Julian, looking very innocent. Me and Jack had this science fair project idea that we wanted to work on together. Oh, well, I guess we could arrange that, she started to say. No, it's okay, Miss Rubin, I said quickly, heading out the door. Bye. Julian ran after me. Why'd you do that? He said, catching up to me at the stairs. We could have been partners. You don't have to be friends with that freak if you don't want to, you know. And that's when I punched him right in the mouth. Whoa. Okay, things just got real here. He's got to learn how to control his emotions, right? You can't just go around hitting people. And he was so furious with Julian, like it was Julian's fault that Jack said what he said. And it really wasn't. Guys, no matter what in life happens, nobody can make you say things, and nobody can make you do things. You have choices, and Jack really had a choice, and he chose to say those mean things. That he was influenced from a mean guy like Julian. So be careful who you choose to hang around with, and don't pretend to be somebody you're not. Detention. Some things you just can't explain. You don't even try. You don't know where to start, and all your sentences would jumble up like a giant knot if you open your mouth, and any words that you use would just come out wrong. Jack, this is very, very serious, Mr. Tushman was saying. I was in his office, sitting on a chair across from his desk and looking at this picture of a pumpkin on the wall behind him. Kids get expelled for this kind of thing, Jack, and I know that you're a good kid, and I don't want this to happen, but you have to explain yourself. This is so not like you, Jack, said Mom. She had come from work as soon as they had called her. I could tell she was going back and forth between being really mad and really surprised. I thought you and Julian were friends, said Mr. Tushman. We're not friends, I said. My arms were crossed in front of me. But to punch someone in the mouth, Jack? Said Mom, raising her voice. I mean, what were you thinking? She looked at Mr. Tushman. Honestly, he's never hit anyone before. He's just not like that. Julian's mouth was bleeding, Jack, said Mr. Tushman. You knocked out a tooth, did you know that? It was just a baby tooth, I said. Jack, said Mom, shaking her head. Well, that's what Nurse Molly said. Well, you're missing the point, Mom yelled. I just want to know why, said Mr. Tushman, raising his shoulders. It'll just make everything worse, I sighed. Just tell me, Jack. I shrugged, but I didn't say anything. I couldn't. If I told him that Julian had called August a freak, then he'd go talk to Julian about it, and then Julian would tell him how I'd badmouthed August too, and everybody would find out about it. Jack, Mom said. I started to cry. I'm sorry. Mr. Tushman raised his eyebrows and nodded, but he didn't say anything. Instead, he kind of blew into his hands like you do when your hands are cold. Jack, he said, I don't really know what to say here. I mean, you punched a kid. We have rules about that kind of thing, you know? Automatic expulsion. And you're not even trying to explain yourself. I was crying a lot by now. And the second Mom put her arms around me, I started to bawl. Let's, said Mr. Tushman, taking off his glasses to clean them. Let's just do this. We're out for winter break as of next week anyway. How about you stay home for the rest of this week? And then after winter break, you'll come back and everything will be fresh and brand new. Clean slate, so to speak. Am I being suspended? I sniffed. Well, he shrugged. Technically, yes, but only for a couple of days. And I'll tell you what. while you're at home, you take the time to explain what's happened. And if you write a letter to me explaining what happened, a letter to Julie and apologizing, we will put this on your permanent. We won't put it on your permanent record.